Excited for my next guest on the Sports Card Shop at Moco guest line. He is the author of a new book, which is coming out October 12th, called The FIFA World Cup, A History of the Planet's Biggest Sporting Event. Mr. Clemente Lisi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
Oh, thanks for coming. I want to give out sort of your bio. You're the journalism professor, can't even say it, at King's College. Obviously, you're an author, a writer, and editor. You've worked for the New York Post, and you've written for many other publications and online. Uh, Locations, and you're a huge soccer fan, and this book, you kind of were nice enough to give me sort of an advanced PDF copy. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like quickly like sped read it, going through it. I mean, it breaks down soccer from its early days to from equipment to the history, obviously, of the World Cup, all the way pretty current, I think, to 2018. Just talk a little bit, like, how do you be, how soccer became important to you.
Yeah, it's a good question, and yeah, the way soccer was, a part of my life, really from the beginning. My parents emigrated this country from Italy, and I think they brought that love of soccer with them. And of course, I grew up in New York City. I was born in 1975, grew up in the 80s, and if you know anything about soccer in the 80s, is the North American Soccer League, the league where they had the New York Cosmos and all that.
Yeah.
That folded in '84, and I don't even remember that league really. And so I grew up at a time when there was no professional soccer in the United States. It was kind of a barren time. But I grew up in Manhattan, and right in the middle of the city. All my friends came from other countries. Soccer was a big deal in our own little sort of bubble. Even though there was none of it on TV, very little of it. If the soccer I did watch growing up on TV was in Spanish, on
Yeah.
Telemundo or Univision, and so really the breakthrough, I think, for soccer in this country was 1990. The U.S. qualified for the first time in 40 years. And then in 94, I think your listeners might remember, the U.S. hosted the World Cup. And I think that
Yeah.
was almost 30 years ago now. And soccer has been a huge trajectory, upward trajectory since then. And I think soccer, the debate for many decades was, is soccer going to make it in this country? And I don't even hear people saying that anymore. And I think if you're under 35 years old, you'd be surprised to even hear that as a, will soccer make it, debate. That's no longer a debate. And I think that the World Cup in '94 helped, but I also think that the internet and streaming services and everything else made soccer so much more available on television, your phone, your computer. That soccer, I mean, I see kids in New York all the time wearing soccer jerseys from other countries. They talk about soccer. They watch the NBA and MLS, or they watch the NFL and they're watching the Premier League. I mean, it's part of their diet, I think, if you're
Yeah.
a teenager now. So a lot of changes in the last 30 years for sure.
In reading the title of your book that will be coming out on October 12th, some might be a little taken aback, right? The greatest sporting event on the planet. There'll be some American football fans that will say, hey, what about the Super Bowl? But while I'm not a huge soccer guy, Clemente, I do know it's worldwide popularity, and so that, the title might make some people, it might rub some people the wrong way, but no one can argue realistically, regardless, and it has, like you said, you pointed out, it has picked up popularity here on U.S. soil. But for many of a country, this is their Super Bowls, and so the title, and I'm a big NFL guy, but the title didn't rub me in that way, like I thought it might, because you'd be, not telling the truth if you didn't acknowledge the range and reach of this sport, which is many countries' number one sports. Whether, even though it may not be ours, you can't. It's legitimate to say what that title of the book infers, because it really is.
Yeah, no, I
Did you?
think, yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
you say
Did
that
you?
because I think, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah. No. No. Go.
I was gonna say that I think, in terms of global scope, the Olympics obviously are huge, but the World Cup is actually bigger than the Olympics. And I remember kind of
Yeah.
growing up, it was kind of funny. I grew up kind of loving soccer, but I grew up loving baseball and football and other
Yeah.
American sports. And I remember my dad would always say, World Series, but there's no other countries competing, or the world champion, NFL. It's like, but there's no other countries competing in this except for maybe a Canadian team in baseball, And so my
Yeah.
dad would always, kind of laugh about world champions, but they didn't play anybody from another country. So, and I think American sports have made inroads around the world. I mean, the NFL is big around the world, but
Yeah.
it's not, you can't compare with soccer. The only other American sport that can compete, I think, with soccer is the NBA. I mean, that's
Yeah.
big in Asia, big in Europe, but I
Yeah.
still think we're talking about the World Cup every 4 years. You have billions of eyeballs on that, and I don't think anybody can compete in terms of that sheer number of people.
Yeah, and I'll confess too. I admitted to you even before we went live, and people listen to the show know I'm not a huge soccer fan. But when the World Cup is on, I will watch some of those games. Maybe not every single one, like maybe a diehard would, but definitely if the U.S. is in it and playing for as long as they last. Obviously, the women's side is been more successful, and I'll even watch. I'll watch the women play as well. The men haven't fared as well. It's funny. I'm a few years older than you, also from New York. You mentioned the New York Cosmos. I remember those when I was a kid, and I remember one of the reasons I remember it. Pele spent some years playing for the Cosmos as an older soccer player, and you didn't have to be a soccer fan. Like Pele was to me like the Michael Jordan, at least at that time, of soccer. I mean, he's just sort of larger than life persona. Arguably the world's greatest soccer player. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that later on, but I remember those games being on TV and just watching them because it was it sounds funny saying local team with a big city in New York, but it was the local team, and you knew the significance of Pele being on that pitch. And I was young, so I don't think I knew all the rules and what was going on, but definitely piqued my interest to know that a great player like that was literally playing, probably not too far away. And so I watched some of that, but I was young too, but I do remember that. Let's talk a little. I mean, one of the questions, right? You've being a big huge fan, doing your research. The one question, as U.S. soccer fans, right? Obviously the United States men's soccer team's not been a favorite really ever. They've had some runs here and there. Why do you? I mean, we have some very good players, excellent players. You think there'll ever be a time where the U.S. team can potentially, win a World Cup title, or do you think it's just maybe a great run and like it's going to end with a powerhouse? Your Brazils, Italy, Germany's type, always being the one that's going to hold that cup up. You ever think there'll be a time when a U.S. It's a hard question to really answer, but or why is it? Maybe a better question is why isn't it that we haven't had a team that ever been kind of in that mix at some point or another?
No, it's a very good question. And I point out in the book that, the World Cup is a real selective club. Only 8 countries have ever won the World Cup. And Spain and France are really newer additions to that winners list. So Spain is a
Yeah,
good example. Spain's a soccer country. They didn't win a World Cup for decades until they won it in 2010, right? It's extremely difficult to win the World Cup because you're right. There's a monopoly there by the Germanys, the Brazils, the Argentina, Italy, those countries. The main issue I think in the United States is that your best athletes are not playing soccer, right? They're going into the NBA, they go into the NFL. I've spoken to a lot of players, professional players in my life, and they've all said, "Oh yeah, I played soccer growing up, but then I played basketball in high school, and then that became my career." Or I played soccer and football, and then I gave up soccer at age 10, right? So until we start developing players who are going to really focus on soccer, I think it'll be a difficult for the United States, even though it's a country of 350 million people, right? But
yeah,
Uruguay, which is a country of 4 million, has won the World Cup twice, and they're still considered a pretty hefty power. it's a country of 4 or 5 million people.
Yeah.
So it's in these countries. I know from growing up and going to Italy every summer as a kid and reading Italian newspapers. There is no other sport in Italy. It is
Yeah.
soccer. You buy the Sports Daily, you're going to get 85-90% soccer. You're going to get a little tennis, a little basketball, and that's it. Here, the four major sports are a real thing, and it's very seasonal. But I do think nowadays, and if anybody has kids, they know they just funnel kids into one sport. I grew up playing like every sport I could, and now
Yeah.
I have a daughter. She's on travel soccer. She plays from September to June. That's it all the
Yeah.
time. I played high school soccer. We played August through November, and then that's it. Then we did track. Then we played baseball in the spring. We did basketball in the summer.
Yeah.
You don't see the multi-sport thing, and I think unless this country starts developing programs to develop soccer kids that are going to do it professionally, then
Yeah.
it will be difficult. And college soccer is not as good as college basketball or college
Yeah.
football. And so you have these different sort of growth patterns in terms of how you develop talent. Can the U.S. win a World Cup? It may take 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
But I think for the United States, getting to like a quarterfinal, a semifinal, that would be like winning the World Cup for the United States.
Yeah, very true, and I think you hit it on the head, and you obviously know more than me in this category. But that then we have the other side of the coin, right? We have the women's side that has been very successful and is one of those powerhouses that are sort of favorited, every time the World Cup. Why the difference? Just in sexes, it's the same country. Is it just the women stick with it maybe longer, like you kind of said? On the men's side, there's so many other sports sort of pulling them away from soccer. Is that happening less on the women's side, you think?
Yeah, so this is a perfect question for this year. It's 50 years of Title IX, and Title IX was
Yeah.
a federal law that allowed women equal access to educational opportunities. And as a result of that, colleges around the country had to develop women's soccer teams just to keep even with the men's soccer teams or the men's football
Yeah.
rosters. So college soccer in this country for women became an incubator of talent, right?
Yeah.
And so when the first World Cup rolled around in 1991, when FIFA decided we should have a women's World Cup, the United States had already almost 2 decades of developing talent. When in other countries, your Brazils, your Italy, your Argentina, your Germany, there's a lot of sexism there, or there was, it still is. There was no
Yeah.
women's soccer. So women's soccer in this country kind of was growing on a whole different track than men. And so now you're right. When you look at the women's teams, the best women's teams, it's your Scandinavian countries, right? Where there's more equality with women. Your Sweden's, your
Yeah.
Norway, the United States, Canada. You don't see Argentina, Brazil, Italy winning women's World Cups, right?
Yeah.
That's changing now. Women's soccer is becoming big in Europe now. Spain, Italy, some other places. American players are going to play there. Foreigners from there come here because there's a women's league called NWSL here. And so women's soccer is totally on a different growth pattern. I know people like to compare the U.S. women's team to the U.S. men's team, and there's been a discussion, as you know, for the past few years about equal
Yeah.
pay, and that
Yeah.
issue got settled, thankfully. But you really can't compare the men's team to the women's team because they're not competing with the same players, even the
Yeah.
same format. Are the women more successful? They are, and because of this really unique um, fallout, outgrowth from Title IX that it never would have happened for the men, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of an interesting story of how things can develop sort of by accident. And this is what happened with the women's team, and the women have continued to be great, the U.S. women's team. So
Yeah, so I got to ask you, we always have that debate in basketball, right? Who's the greatest of all time? People say Jordan, then you got like people in the LeBron camp that says LeBron is, and everyone's, someone might mention someone else. When growing up, I'm, a player I mentioned to me it was always Pele. There wasn't really an argument, and then Maradona came on scene, and then we've even had greats after that. I mean, if who does soccer hold up? If do they hold up one? Is it still Pele? Like who's in that goat argument on the soccer
yeah,
end of
sort of
things?
the Mount Rushmore of
Yeah.
soccer. Yeah, so it's funny. People from Argentina will tell you it's Diego Maradona is the greatest of all time. People from Brazil will say it's Pele, but secretly they'll tell you it's Maradona too. So it's kind of funny, but not. But they'll defend their own.
Yeah,
Brazil develops soccer players like you grow weeds in the backyard. Like
yeah,
it's crazy how in Brazil it's part of the DNA. But Pele and Maradona hold up. And then I'm
yeah,
going to take the cop out answer, which is, well, you can't compare players from different eras,
yeah. It's
but you
true though.
can,
I think.
but you can, in that
Yeah,
Maradona and Pele could be 1A 1B. Really, it's really that close. Um, if you go down that list, I think another one on that list would be Johan Cruyff, who played for the Dutch the World Cup. Did
hmm
not win a World Cup. He's sort of the Dan Marino, I guess, of soccer, in that he didn't win a World Cup, but
yeah,
he just the Dutch teams of the '70s were so innovative, and he ended up playing here in the NASL with the LA Aztecs. He played in this country. After Pele came here, a lot of other Europeans,
yeah,
South Americans came here, and then you sort of have this twin billing. We live in a good time here. We have Lionel Messi and
yeah,
Cristiano Ronaldo, who are
yeah,
and they're superstars in that they are playing exceptional soccer. They have a lot of longevity. They've been playing for almost 2 decades, and they're playing at a time when we have social media, right?
yeah,
So people say Messi is the best of all time. I'm like, hold on, like
yeah,
if Maradona was playing and you had Twitter, trust me, you wouldn't say that. Or
yeah,
if Pele was playing when there was Twitter, right?
yeah,
So or YouTube or whatever. So we live in a great time for soccer because you have two great players, and the debate now really is Messi, Ronaldo. Who is it?
yeah,
That's another one. That's another 1A, 1B. The argument in Argentina really is Messi better than Maradona? And Maradona won the World Cup in '86. Messi has never won a World Cup. He got to the final in 2014. He may get to the final this time around. But unless he can win a World Cup, I think people in Argentina will still hold Maradona in a sort of
yeah.
special category. So,
It's funny how no matter what the sport, right, winning a championship holds that much caveat, right? In goat status, right? Greatest of all time.
there's only one exception to the championship rule. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls, and people still don't think he's in the top 10 even. So, um,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, he's not. He's tied with his brother, and is
right.
and anyone will tell you Peyton was a much better quarterback. So,
I'm a
uh,
big Giants fan, and I will defend
yeah,
Eli if I have to, but he just doesn't get the love that
I
the
will
Peyton
say
gets
this.
or anybody else.
Yeah, you're right. I think he was overshadowed by Peyton. Unfortunately, when you have the same last name and you play the same position, you're whether you like it or not. I think you're going to be compared
Right,
to your brother,
right,
and I think but if you take that aside and you look at what his career and what he's accomplished, he's definitely underrated. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think it's
right,
just you play the same position with a highly acclaimed brother, you're going to sort of be in that shadow. And
right.
but they're both doing all right post career
Oh yeah,
with
they're fun to
TV, and
watch.
yeah,
They're
they
fun to
are they
watch. Yeah, yeah,
they are
absolutely.
great. And with the World Cup, like I mentioned, I do watch it. Obviously, I watch the U.S. women. They usually last a little longer. Traditionally, I'll watch the U.S. men for as long as they're until they're eliminated, and then being half Italian, you got to have sort of a backup team if you're a U.S. Soccer fan. So then I'll turn. I'll watch the U.S. and Italy. Early on, and then when the U.S. usually is at some point eliminated, then the sole focus is on Italy, and they've been exciting to watch too. And obviously, they're usually more of a favorite to go further or even potentially win the thing. And but it's it's funny because there are people, right? It's kind of like American football. There are people who aren't really NFL fans that will watch the Super Bowl just
Right,
because of the dynamic and what it means. And the same thing, I think, with the World Cup. I'm not what you would probably call a traditional or ideal soccer fan, but when the World Cup is on, I will, be on the couch and it will be on the TV. Maybe not 24/7 or as much as certain, but I will check in, and especially like I said with U.S. teams, Italy, and that sort of thing. I always have those games on. So, to deny its popularity again is being disingenuous. So, like you said, maybe someday we'll watch the U.S. The men's side last a little bit longer and make a future run. Hopefully, let's talk about cards. We've seen the last 2 years, Clemente, all pretty much all sports, right? Cards kind of uh, blew up during the pandemic in a good way. Soccer was really at the forefront of that. And I think soccer cards have always been popular, but like you would probably agree, maybe more so overseas. But here, the last couple of years, they really hit the forefront here in the U.S. Now the market's softening. Do you think, you think longevity wise, soccer cards can, here? I know they're always, just like the sport itself, they're always going to be popular in other countries, but you think that it can sustain some of that momentum here in the stateside?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's a good question. No, I do think that things will soften a little bit, but I guarantee it when the World Cup rolls around November, the prices will go up. And I think for
Yeah,
that 30-day period when players are doing well or doing badly, you're going to see values changing every day, kind of like day trading. And like I'll give you an example: the 2018 Panini Prism Kylian Mbappe, who plays for France.
yeah,
That and the parallels of that card are what people want. And if France can win the World Cup again, or if Mbappe has a wonderful tournament, those values will just go up.
yeah,
And if a player does badly, they go down. So I would recommend if you want to get into soccer or you already love soccer cards, that now is the time to do it, not November 18th when the hype
yeah,
happens. And the World Cup usually happens in the summer, and because the temperatures in Qatar are so hot, and a lot of controversy around that World Cup. The World Cup was moved to November, December, which for the first time the World Cup will actually be competing with the NFL, with the
yeah,
NBA, with other stuff, as opposed to other years when it was on in June and July when the only real competition was maybe MLB, but you wouldn't have competition from the NBA, the NHL, anything like that. So it'll be a true test. I'll give you an example. The U.S. group has Iran, Wales, and England in it, and the U.S. plays England on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. That's
yeah,
going to be a huge game. That could end up being the highest rated game on television for soccer in U.S. history because people will be home, and it's U.S. England is going to be a huge game, right? Because England
yeah,
is a huge soccer power, and so in that sense, even values of American player cards, I think, will grow. And it's interesting.
yeah,
You said that the cards are popular in Europe, but the truth is, it's Topps and Panini that produce the cards, and the
yeah,
market really is driven by the U.S. market. And
yeah,
so I always tell people, look, you don't watch MLS, Major League Soccer, you should, because a lot of those young Americans end up in Europe, and you want their rookie card, you got to go and get the MLS set. So MLS
yeah,
cards are fairly cheap. Everybody wants the Prism and the fancy stuff, but I tell people just get your Tops or get your whatever, get your base cards or your parallels or your autos of rookies from MLS, and then those could we have lots of players that were either born here, have rookie cards that are from here, and Europeans are looking for those cards. They're looking for the Christian Pulisic rookie, which was 2017, and you got out of Don Russ or Prism or whatever it was, or Select, right? But those are the kind of things that I think U.S. card investors have sort of a chance to get in on early if they want. So
yeah, mate. The light bulb went off in my head. It's a great point, right? If you wait till the World Cup starts, it might be too late, right? Get in when things are sort of no one's sort of paying as much attention, right? And
right,
it'll start to rev up the hype machine. The anticipation of the game starting. People are going to hedge their bets on who they think's going to win the World Cup because, as you said, performance and winning that thing is going to dictate what some of the values of these players cards are going to be. That happens in every sport. So now is a great time in leading up to if you're of that ilk, now would be
right,
the time to do it rather than to wait. In baseball, we have issues with with Bowman, they make a lot of the draft picks coming out of college or high school. cards, 3 or 4 years before they're ever, or even longer before they're ever going to hit the big leagues. And so it's the big debate that we have with baseball cards. What's his rookie? Is it that first card, or is it the first card? Once they make the big leagues, and that then they're produced in their big league uniform. Is there any kind of debate with soccer rookie cards along those lines, or is it a lot more cut and dry?
No, I wish it was. So growing up, I bought baseball cards. I loved hockey cards, and I still do.
Yeah,
And when I was growing up, there were no soccer cards. Really, the market was driven by Panini stickers,
stickers.
right?
Yep.
And so if you look for Maradona's rookie, right, it's going to be a sticker, right? And
Yeah,
a lot of, I mentioned Kylian Mbappe. So his sticker is 2017-18 UEFA. It's a sticker that was released in Europe, right?
yeah,
But now you even see even the Europeans and the Americans are going more towards, oh, it's 2018 World Cup card, his first card ever. That's his rookie. Now, as you know, Panini doesn't really put RC logos on there like
yeah,
Topps does. So
yeah,
there's a lot of debate over what is this person's rookie card. It's usually a sticker, but
yeah,
Americans are not into the stickers, right? And most stickers end up in the album, and you can't take them off, right? Like I have lots of World Cup albums from years past. I didn't get the sticker graded because why would you do that? That wasn't even a
yeah,
thing, right? You put it in
yeah,
the book and you want to fill the album up, right? And that was the whole thing. And I grew up, buying cards in America, and then the summer I'd go to Italy and buy stickers there. And I never thought the two would ever collide. But now we live in a world where soccer cards are a thing, and soccer collecting and baseball and hockey and basketball are all sort of in the same hobby. I mean, I used to go to card shows in the 90s. I don't remember ever seeing a Maradona sticker. And now I go to card shows and it's there, right?
yeah,
It's people like they went in their basements, their attics, they found stickers. I don't know how the market got flooded with 1979, Panini Maradona sticker. That's his rookie, right? So there's a big debate. What is the rookie? So I like to buy sets because I love rookie cards. I love to buy
yeah,
sets like Rated Rookie Donruss. They do a soccer set. I
yeah,
just love having that logo on there. And I'm like, this is his rookie. It might not be worth as much as someone else's Prism or Select or whatever it is. But I like this logo. It reminds me of those baseball rookie cards from the 90s, the 80s. And so, but there's a big debate over what is it. So, for example, in soccer, there isn't a draft, right? Soccer
yeah,
doesn't produce rookies like baseball or the NBA or the NHL. They just don't have a draft where every year there's 30, 40, 50 guys flooding the market and maybe 5 or 6 of them become good. Soccer
yeah,
doesn't have that. So soccer saw a huge increase in rookies in 2020, 21 because of the pandemic. So soccer
yeah,
teams were playing guys that you had never seen before. And all of a sudden there was a real rookie class. And I think as the hobby got hot, people were buying these rookies. They were like, this is great. Every year we're going to speculate. And then it turns out there aren't any more rookies. Like soccer isn't producing rookies at the level that you see in baseball or in the NBA. So there's not a lot of speculating. So what there is a lot of is people saying, oh, I like Ronaldo. What's his rookie? Right. Then they figure out that it's like a 20-year-old car that was produced in Spain that's going
yeah,
for like $5,000 on eBay. They're like, okay, forget that. So in soccer, the rookie chase isn't as big. I think in soccer, the chase is like, can I get on card autos, which are very difficult in soccer, mostly stickers,
yeah,
because these guys are always traveling. You can't pin them down. I mentioned Kylian Mbappe, who's French. He's actually in the United States on vacation this summer, and I read that he was hanging out with Topps signing cards,
yeah,
which means they may be some on-card autos of him for the first time. It's all stickers, right? It's all
yeah,
sticker autos because these guys are never. And during the pandemic, that got harder and harder.
yeah,
So the chase there is really for parallels, as you know. I love base cards, but I'm old school.
yeah.
And to me, a base rookie is a base rookie. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm
it's
with
it's
you. Don't. I'm
it's his
not
rookie card.
apologizing either. Yeah,
Right. It's like, oh, it's not out of 50 with like a shiny thing on it. It's like,
yeah,
okay, if I pull that card, great. But
yeah,
if I don't, when I got back into the hobby in about 2018, I remember pulling parallels, even of rookies, and thinking like, oh, these are weird. Like putting them
yeah,
aside, like they were worthless. I
yeah,
realized, oh no, these are actually worth more than the base. Like I got to
yeah,
get the whole set, because I started buying cards in '86, with the gum and all that.
yeah,
And then by the mid '90s, '94, '95, baseball strike. I was in college. I kind of
yeah,
left the
yeah,
hobby, and then in 2020 about 2018, my kids were getting older. They were 7, 8, 9, 10, always on devices, watching TV. I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Like, I was thinking back to my childhood. I'm like, boy, I used to spend hours just staring at the backs of these cards, like
Yeah.
memorizing stuff. And these kids don't do that. And then I got back
Yeah.
into it a little bit, and it was fun going back to shows. And then the
Yeah.
pandemic came, and it was like a tidal wave. Like I
Yeah.
bought soccer cards in 2018 for really good prices. And then if you try to get those same cards today, you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to afford them. I went on eBay and I was like, soccer cards, nobody wants these. Americans don't want these. Like, this is
Yeah.
great. I'm getting like autos here, triple auto cards. I'm buying them for really cheap, right? I mean, those cards now are just, I don't know what the pandemic, the hobby grew during the pandemic. I don't know why soccer grew in particular. I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you why, but I think everything grew, right? I mean, Formula One
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything grew,
It,
right? So
I,
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect storm, right? You had people working from home or even not working. You had
Right,
the stimulus packages,
right,
and I think it just was the ingredients were there for what we saw to happen. I wouldn't have guessed it. As a matter of fact, I was on this show and I said, cards are going to take a back seat to everyday necessities: water, toilet paper, food,
right,
and yet it I was wrong. I'm glad I was wrong for the hobby's sake. Now we're seeing some of those things that created sort of that crescendo are kind of going the pendulum swinging back the other way. So we're seeing now that softening, that sort of reset. No one's immune to it. I'm sure it's hit the soccer market as well. But one thing, like you said, that's going to be interesting is to see, with the World Cup approaching, and I like to think things will be better by that time, but things don't usually happen that quick. We're still going to be in some of the where we are now. It's going to be interesting to see what the soccer card market does with the World Cup. With those rocket boosters of the World Cup trying to lift it off again. I'm kind of curious to see. Maybe we can even have you back on, and we can kind of revisit that to the World Cup effect. It's obviously going to have a positive effect. I don't think there's any way it doesn't. It's the like you said, it's the planet's one of the planets. It's the planet's biggest event,
right.
like it or not. That's kind of where it ranks, and it's going to have a positive effect, at least on the sport, which I think will translate to the card side too. So,
You
I'm
have a perfect. Yeah, you're right about the perfect storm. You also have the World Cup. It may create a mini bubble, but prices will go up. And then it's also worth noting that in 4 years from now, the U.S. will host the World Cup.
yeah,
So with Canada and Mexico, and Canada qualified for the World Cup this time around too, and the hobby obviously a big push in Canada too. So I do think that it'll go up and down, but I think
yeah,
it has a long term trajectory to compete with. I collect hockey cards, and I would argue
yeah,
that soccer is bigger than hockey in the United States. I
yeah,
would argue that.
yeah,
Just what I see at shows, just what people are selling, and
yeah,
so but I also have noticed that a lot of dealers don't know what they have, and they do just inflate prices. There's cards from 5 6 years ago that are going for $10 $20. I'm like, this card is worth $2 3, but I think
yeah,
people are trying to sort of take advantage
yeah,
of this sort of, oh, I have some soccer cards, or I found this old set. Is it worth a lot of money? And it's like, well, like the '94 World Cup set that Upper Deck put out. It's a great set, but it's junk wax, right? There's a lot of those
yeah,
cards out there.
yeah,
And that set included, Joe Montana with a soccer ball, Wayne Gretzky with one, Reggie Jackson. Like, there's some of those
yeah.
multi-sport. At the
Cross
time, Upper Deck was
crossovers.
exactly, and Upper Deck was
Yeah,
trying to do a lot of crossover promotion. And it's funny because the most valuable card in that set is Mia Hamm's rookie, because they put out some
yeah,
women's cards, and Mia
yeah,
Hamm has a card in there. So Mia Hamm's rookie is that card, and the Sports Illustrated, perforated card that
yeah,
that
yeah,
that I think there's a pop of 3 or 4 on those, obviously, and those are worth a lot of money because of the
yeah,
scarcity.
yeah,
But otherwise, that one of the best soccer sets of all time was produced right in the middle of the junk wax era. So
yeah,
and it's kind of hard to see people trying to sell that for a lot of money, like an open box, when it's like, this box is $10, guys. It's not.
yeah.
let's not go crazy. But I think they want to take advantage of this boom because I think they
Yeah.
think it's going to be short term potentially.
Yeah,
So
they're trying to cash in. I'm sure we'll see more of that. The closer to the World Cup you get, as people are going to try to, kind of jump on that boat and
right,
make with the probably the fear that once the World Cup's completed, then that boat kind of leaves port. So you're gonna have to be smart, sort of navigate through that. Check what things are worth before just sort of especially if you don't know your soccer, like someone like me would have to really like do their homework, and nothing wrong with doing that. It's worth doing that and not overpay for something, or potentially lose money. No one likes to do that if they can avoid it. But yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see sort of the dynamic of that as we ramp up towards it. Do you think you mentioned that it's going to be obviously in a different kind of not the only game in town and going to be coinciding with other sports that it normally wouldn't be again. You think that makes a difference, or you think it's really a moot point with soccer fans, for most soccer fans?
yeah. I think the only thing, yeah. Well, if you're a diehard soccer fan, you're going to watch the World Cup.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
It's more the American fan, multi-sport fan. Will they watch a World Cup game over an NFL game? And I think if it's the U.S. and it's high
yeah,
stakes, sure, it's possible. Are they going to want to watch, like Algeria versus Croatia? Well, no, they're not going to watch that game. That game will, not get the ratings you want. And the NFL is a ratings behemoth. I mean, I wouldn't put anything up against the NFL. It's tough.
yeah,
And if you're Fox, you have the sort of cross promotion there because Fox has the NFL and
yeah,
has the World Cup, so that will help, I think. And I think it's the kind of thing today where dad might want to watch the NFL, but the son may want to watch the World Cup, and I think there's a way to bond that way. And I see a
yeah,
lot of kids at soccer games, and I know their parents are not soccer fans. It's the kid taking the dad
yeah,
as opposed to, and then the dad's taking the kid to the baseball game probably, right? So I think it's a lot of that cross generational thing. This happens with women's soccer. A lot of dads are taking their daughters to see women play because they want to support soccer, but they want to support their daughters in women's soccer too. So I think there's a lot of cross generational stuff in this country. Between I think the Gen Z, the millennials, they love
yeah,
soccer. The the
yeah,
the the Gen Xers, my generation, and older, baby
yeah,
boomers, they're not, soccer is newer to them. They remember the
yeah,
Cosmos. My father-in-law is a huge
yeah,
soccer fan. He says, he goes, I don't watch soccer. He goes, I'll watch the World Cup, but I don't watch
yeah,
soccer. Like, you're not going to catch
yeah,
me watching a New York Red Bulls LAFC game on a Sunday afternoon in
yeah,
June. It's just not happening, right? MLS gets very poor ratings as a result of that, and they
yeah,
they recently made a deal with Apple TV to stream all their games in the future because
yeah,
they know the audience is skewing younger towards the
yeah,
streaming, right? Um, but in that sense, it's I think the ratings will be good. It helps that the U.S. qualified 4 years ago. The U.S. did not qualify, so that didn't
yeah.
help. So the U.S. will be there. I think all the U.S. games will do very well. The first games of the
Yeah,
first round,
you mentioned the U.S. England on
right?
Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving.
Right?
Most people will obviously have that day off
Right?
from work. I don't. My son's 22, so I've done my Black Fridays for toy shopping. I
Right?
rather watch that game than battle crowds and people for a deal on stuff. And most of the time, there's deals that you can get online if that's your thing anyway. So
Right? Yeah, Black
you
Friday
can do.
starts like a week early now, right? So you don't need to
I
show up
don't
on.
even know anymore. It changes every year, right? It becomes a 2 week sale event,
Right. And
So
so, yeah, I totally agree. And I think people are home, they're not working. It's a 4-day weekend. The NFL really dominates on Thursday, on Thanksgiving.
yeah,
It's not competing with that.
yeah,
That's a coincidence. FIFA puts the calendar together. It's not like, but the US games are all going to be interesting. They play Wales and they play Iran. And when you're
yeah,
the US and you're a geopolitical power, the US
yeah,
Iran game, there's a lot of
yeah,
politics behind that game. It's
yeah,
going to be interesting to watch. Iran is not a soccer power, but trust me,
yeah,
people in Iran are going to be up for this game, because it's the
yeah,
U.S. And this is the one thing that's interesting about soccer is that I think it's the one thing that other countries can say, you know what, we're better than you at this.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
if the U.S. ever got really good at soccer, I think there'd be a lot of people who'd be really upset. They'd be really resentful because they're like, you guys got it all. You guys are the world superpower. You have to take soccer too. But I do think this country is producing a lot of really good soccer players, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if the U.S. got out of the first round. And
Yeah,
in a short tournament, you just never know. You can get really hot. I
yeah.
mean, to win the World Cup, you have to win seven
If one
games.
of those if one of those favorites gets
Knocked out
somehow
early,
eliminated sooner,
right?
could open a path. I'm not telling people to go to Las Vegas
Right.
and bet on, but I mean, you never know, right?
You never
We've
know.
seen some crazy stuff in World Cups before.
Right.
So you know, who knows, right? You
It's
can only
possible.
hope. Hey,
It's possible.
the game starts 0-0, right? When they first
Exactly.
start playing.
I always
So
tell people soccer is the simplest game in the world. You just got to score more goals than the other team. That's it.
yeah,
Now I think coaches and players fans have complicated this sport to make it, more complicated than it needs to be. But it's really simple. Just put the ball in the net more than the other team, and you win the game. I tell my daughter that all
yeah,
the time. Like, it's not that complicated, and it's in that way. That's why it's the most popular sport in the world. I think anybody can play it. Don't need any equipment. You need a ball, and you can make a
yeah,
ball out of. In some countries, people
yeah,
make balls out of rags. So
yeah,
you don't really need to have. Like in football, you need pads and helmets, and hockey, you need all
yeah,
this equipment. In soccer, you just don't need it. And other countries are developing talent just organically, playing in the street, which you don't
yeah,
even see in this country anymore. You don't see anybody playing in the street, but that's really how soccer grows. And I think in Brazil is a great example. I mean, when I was there in 2014 for the World Cup, kids are just playing in the street on the beach.
yeah,
There's no there's organized stuff, I'm sure, when they get older, but at its primal level, it's kind of like, going to Cuba and watching kids play baseball in the street. Yeah, it's just
yeah,
that it's part of their culture, which,
yeah,
we don't have that here, but I think it's becoming part of our culture. I mean, the United States has always been a multi-ethnic country. I grew up in New York City. I had friends from
yeah,
Yugoslavia, Turkey, Brazil,
yeah,
and they all played soccer. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
that was kind of the knock against soccer back then. It was like, oh, this is an ethnic game. This is for foreigners. You don't
yeah,
hear that anymore. Now you have kids in the suburbs play soccer, right? So it's
yeah.
not. It's a dynamic. It's a culture shift for sure. So
Yeah, well, now we got the terms, right? Soccer mom, soccer dad, right? We
right,
didn't have that. I'm like I said, just a few years older than you. We didn't have those terms when we were younger and growing up. I think that's showing that the dynamic has shifted. You got more kids playing the sport. It's translated well for the women. Not as the same for the men, but again, maybe you mentioned 20, 30 years, we maybe be around to see sort of that dynamic change as we kind of play catch up, hopefully, to the rest of the world potentially. But not going to be an easy task. Me and you probably making it sound a lot easier than it's actually going to be. But
right.
you can only hope, and there is a program, and it's funded, and you just hope. What it's entailed to do. Maybe it starts to trend that way. So we'll
Yeah,
see. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, there was a lot of talk about whether soccer can make it in this country in terms of developing talent in 2018 when the U.S. failed to qualify. When you don't qualify for the World Cup, it's like, okay, now what are we doing wrong? And the big debate at the time was, too much of soccer in this country is pay to play. Like, you have to
Yeah,
pay good money to be on a travel team, and maybe your best players could be kids who are low income areas who don't have the money
yeah,
to be on a travel team. Maybe your best players are there. You should go find those players, right? And
yeah,
so, the argument U.S. Soccer made at the time was, well, in this country, you want to play the piano, you got to pay for lessons, right? That's the way that this works. And
yeah.
so, it's the difference between the United States, I think, and maybe the other soccer powers, where you don't have this idea that you have to,
Financial,
yeah, the financial
the financial.
constraints.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, soccer traditionally has been a game for the poor. The poorest people
yeah.
play soccer, and so it's kind of ironic that way. That in this country, you have to sort of have some money to be able to play.
Yeah,
So
well, those other powerhouses are just saying we're going to put the best squad together. We don't care what neighborhood you come from. We
right,
don't know. We don't care what your parents do or don't
right,
do. I think it's a great point by you there that's could be something that's sort of holding us back, and maybe the powers that be kind of the light bulb goes on, and they can figure that out and how to get those maybe some of our better players, younger players that don't have the funds, involved on those competitive level. so
right,
we can kind of match up, obviously better with
yeah, and
countries who do that already. You
right. And
know.
then you have this, yeah, you have this other sort of thing that happens in the U.S. often too, is that somebody who was born here or moved here from another country starts developing, and then the other country says, "Hey, you want to play for us?" A lot of
Yeah.
Mexican Americans play for Mexico, right? If you go to a
Yeah.
U.S. Mexico soccer game in L.A. or New York, 90% of the fans are cheering for Mexico, right?
Yeah.
The hope is that maybe their kids one day will say, "You know what? I'm also American. I'm going to cheer for the U.S." Right?
Yeah.
It's part of the
Yeah.
integration process, right? So the U.S. is always everyone's number two team, right? I
Yeah.
grew up a huge Italy fan when the U.S. wasn't even qualifying for the World Cup, right? And I always tell people always ask me, well, if the U.S. is playing Italy, who do you root for? And so I always say, well, I'll cheer for the U.S. in one half, and I'll cheer for Italy in the second half,
Yeah.
because it's hard to sort of detach yourself from the country of your parents, your heritage, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk into any pizza place in New York and they've got the Italy squad poster up, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't,
Yeah.
right? So it's, and maybe those people barely watch soccer, but it's part of the national pride, right? And
Yeah.
so, and that's my
Hey,
book
I
said,
admitted it myself, being half the time when the U.S. is gone, which is usually earlier than we'd like. You say, "Oh, I gotta have a rooting interest." Italy's going to most likely fare better. You know, that's where I'm going to. My interest is, my loyalty is going to go to.
yeah,
You're right, and
one of the
yeah,
biggest soccer games in World Cup history took place in '94, opening round, Giant Stadium, Italy, Ireland. I
yeah,
think all
yeah,
of Brooklyn was there,
yeah,
like, so, and those fans weren't traveling from Europe. Those fans were Irish American, Italian American, and this was their way of,
yeah.
cheering on the country of their heritage. So,
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I'm looking forward to it as we ramp up. We're ramping up. It's National Week for Cards. I hope to meet you in person and see you there. And just real quick before we close, kind of, I know you mentioned like you collected, baseball and hockey as well. What are your interests? Are you like, do you collect players, sets, or how do you, with those two sports?
yeah, no, when I was much younger, the sets were my thing, right? Go for the
Yeah.
sets. And then, when I got back into the hobby in the last few years, I was like, sets are going to take up a lot of space. And, and which sets do I collect, right? I mean, there's a million sets
Yeah.
out there now. It's
Yeah.
not just the regular set. So like you, I was, I'm like, I'm going to focus on rookie cards. I love rookie
Yeah.
cards. That first card, and if you're, for a baseball fan, those cards can get really expensive. So, I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I'm just gonna collect the rookie cards of baseball players from my lifetime. All right.
Yeah.
So that doesn't get me, I don't have to worry about going after, cards that of guys who I can never afford.
Yeah.
So I love 1970s cards, cards a little bit before my time. I love those cards. I
Yeah.
love the vintage. I'm always telling people, go for the vintage.
Yeah.
The
We're
shiny stuff
waving.
is fun, you
We're
know.
waving the same pennant right there.
Yeah,
So
and then for hockey, for me, it's really all about young guns. I love those cards,
yeah. Yeah.
and I love collecting as much as I can of all of them.
Yeah.
Even the ones that people call scrub guns. The ones that don't make it. The $2 cards. Everyone's a
Yeah.
young gun, right? It's like 40 young
Yeah.
guns, and there's like one guy is great or two guys are
Yeah.
great. And I'm a big Rangers fan, so I love to chase Ranger
There you
rookie
go. I'm a
Ranger.
huge
Yeah,
Rangers guy. Yeah.
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 We had a good run this year, really good run.
Yeah, I was, man, we were close. I
We
think
were close.
they ran out of, those series. The earlier series just took so much out of them for them
Right.
to get over those humps. I think they just sort of ran. Here we are up 2-0 on Tampa. We're looking good. I was
Right.
like, hey, we're gonna be in the final, right?
Yeah.
Counting the chickens before they hatch,
Right.
and we were close to getting that game three. If we could have got that,
Right.
uh, 3-0, I think we would, saw the ads. I'm not going to say we would have won, but at least we would have been
Right.
in the final. But
Right.
they got a lot of young talent, so that I'm optimistic. I'm sure you are as well. I like their coach now with
Yeah.
Gallant,
Yeah.
and compared to Quinn, who I wasn't,
Right.
truth be told, not a big fan of. First time NHL coach, and if you read some of the stuff, not good with the younger players. Weren't, fan of his style and the way he liked to play. So I think we're moving. Talking to a fellow Ranger, I think we're moving in the right direction, Clemente. I think so. I think this, quite frankly, I think the success we had this year wasn't even expected this soon. I think we were headed that way, and so
Right.
I think maybe it fast tracks where we're going a little bit more, and getting those young guys some playoff experience now, maybe sooner than we thought will bode well for the future. So
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree, and I'm always looking at the cultural aspects too. Like, New York, pandemic wasn't good to New York, and I thought, hey, if the Rangers get to the finals, the city will just come alive. It's funny, Ranger fans are all over New York. Like, I live in
yeah,
Brooklyn, and people have American flags up, and then they put Ranger flags up. Like, people are pretty
yeah.
big fans here, and so I'm like, if the Rangers get to the Stanley Cup Finals, it really will be a big boost. But we got close. We got
I
close.
just
So
I just hope we won't have to wait another 40 something years like we
right,
did in 93 and
and,
Messier
and right,
basically almost putting that team on his back. It's been now 29. So I don't
yeah,
want to
it's
get in the 40s.
right,
I want to live. I
right,
want to live to see. I want to live to see another one. It's funny, I remember when we won that. I say we like I'm on the team, but
yeah,
you know how that goes. But when the Rangers won that in 93, 94, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I saw signs in the celebration says now I can die
yeah,
in peace, right?
right.
I which I thought was funny, but I'm saying right now, like I hope I see another one,
Right.
before it's too late.
I still
So
remember, it's funny. I still remember that day that they had a ticker tape parade because it was also the same day that the World Cup started in '94 in the
yeah,
US. So it was the same day. That's also the same day of the OJ slow chase. So like a lot was going on that day, and the Knicks were in the finals, right? So that's a
yeah.
famous day in sports. And so I still remember that day of like watching the parade and then like going home and putting the game on, the
That's
soccer
when you
games,
need. That's when you needed the quad box before it even
Right.
existed. Yeah.
Exactly. You needed like the phone. I mean, if there was Twitter back then, it would have been amazing. So, you know.
Yeah. Well,
um,
Clemente, I appreciate you coming on, chopping up soccer with someone that doesn't know as much, but I know we do have listeners that do enjoy it. I'm sure they're going to be, messaging me like, hey, you need to have, Clemente and others more. We need more of that. So love
right,
to have you back on, maybe, either during or after the World Cup concludes and kind of talk about some of the things we kind of were speculating on
right,
now and kind of see how it actually went down then. And
right.
like I said, hope to see
Anytime.
you here at the National. I always give our guests all the give out any of the socials, where to find the book. October 12th, the FIFA World Cup, the history of the planet's biggest sporting event. Where people can get that once it comes out, websites, anything you want to share with those out there listening. Take your time, give
Yeah,
all that
sure.
info out.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. And also, I should say before we wrap up that, during the pandemic, you're one of those podcasts I was always listening to. So it's good to actually be on the show because I am
Well,
a,
I
I am,
I,
I
appre-
am
I
a listener.
appreciate that. I
Yeah,
appreciate that, and I think just through you, I'm gonna learn more about soccer and pay more attention to it. So
if I look,
besides the World Cup,
if I'm here
but
to
go ahead.
convert, I'm here to convert people. That's great. So, so yeah. So the book you can get on Amazon.com. You can pre-order it now. You can go to my publisher Rowan.com, and if you just want to chat with me on Twitter, I'm at Clemente Lisi, and you can find me there too. So please, any comments or questions, my way.
Yep, awesome. I'll put that in the show notes as well, and then on obviously on release date, make sure you tag me, Clemente, and we'll retweet that and get the word out there
For
for
sure.
that. So, like I said, I kind of sped through it quickly, but I mean, it's in depth. You take it right from the ground level all the way to modern day, even equipment, and very well done. You just have to read a few pages of that, and you know your stuff, and you care, and you have a passion, and it comes through pretty quickly with that book.
Yeah,
So
thank you. I appreciate, some people got up dog during the pandemic. I wrote a book. So, everyone does something different, so
yeah, I got the dog. It's fun. Just I had to think when I got him. His name's King, but yeah,
No,
we did. Yeah, you better
yeah.
you write books than me. I think it's safer. I think it's safer for me having the dog for everyone else. Thanks, Clemente.
Well, thank you.